Yesterday was a great day for the Bitcoin miners. It was also a great day for Bitcoin. Now today's a little bit different. Bitcoin's pulling back slightly. Most of the Bitcoin miners, however, are up. I do think the market's starting to realize that the rewards being cut in half is pretty much priced in, and many of these Bitcoin miners are showing reversals out of their recent downtrends. In this video, we're going to talk about a couple of them on the chart. We're also going to talk about some Bitcoin news. Let's get started. If you guys get something useful out of this, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Consider checking out the links down below for some free stocks and cryptos, and consider joining my membership for only $2 a month to show your support. First off, I want to talk about something with Blackrock that's going on. So we had the FOMC yesterday, and from what I heard, basically the Fed says what they always said: we need to see upcoming data. The market seemed to rally on the fact that we still have 3 projected rate cuts in 2024. And while this is all going on, Blackrock quietly launches a $5 trillion by 2030 game changer that could boost Ethereum, XRP, and general crypto. Now, there's not too much detail about this currently. Blackrock has basically already begun its second stage in this plan for a crypto-based revolution in financial markets, something that Citi analysts predict could become a $5 trillion market by 2030. I don't know why they said could, but okay. Now, this new fund's documentation that was filed with the SEC last week doesn't specify what cryptos they are going to include in this fund, but it seems like they may already have a crypto based on Blackrock. It's called Blackrock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund, or BUDL, kind of like HODL, but it's BUDL. Was created earlier this month on the Ethereum blockchain, and we did see a $100 million transfer on March 4. This current crypto has a maximum quantity of 100 coins and only one holder. And as said by Larry Fink in an interview with CNBC, we believe that this is just the beginning. ETFs are step 1 in the technological revolution in the financial markets. Step 2 is going to be the tokenization of every financial asset. And he continues to say, we have the technology to tokenize today. If you had a tokenized security, the moment you buy or sell an instrument, it's known on a general ledger that is all created together. This eliminates all corruption, having a tokenized system. We will see what comes of this in the future. Maybe BlackRock will create their own token. It's still definitely very early to say what's going to happen here. But next up, let's look at Bitcoin ETF outflows. We did see a record 742 million in outflows over only 3 days. And you can see on the chart here that we have seen outflows before, like in late January, but this is more than we have seen, and in such a small period of time. To me, this is something to not worry about. To me, this is something to take advantage of. We know that we're going to overall see net inflow over time. We know that there's a lot of asset managers, a lot of companies that want to get into crypto but still can't. And I did mention this yesterday, but check this out. Grayscale CEO says the fees on its Bitcoin ETF will drop over time after the outflows hit $12 billion. Well, GBTC has now logged outflows of more than $12 billion. And the Grayscale CEO Michael Sonnenschein said, I'll happily confirm that over time as this market matures, the fees on GBTC will come down. We have seen this in countless other exposures, countless other markets, you name it, where typically when products are early in their life cycle, when they're new to be introduced, these fees tend to be higher. And as those markets mature, as those funds grow, the fees tend to come down. And we expect the same to be true of GBTC. And they even anticipated having outflows, hence the reason they wanted to see 12 billion in outflows before changing fees. But you know, I think they saw all these outflows coming. We had FTX and all that drama, all the selling of GBTC there. We had Genesis and their billions in GBTC to sell. And I think they knew what was coming. They just wanted to keep those fees elevated, get as much money as they could as we see these outflows. They knew it was inevitable. Maybe there's something to this 12 billion number. Maybe at that point they think the outflows start drying up, and then they can start lowering fees. That's just my speculation. Why else would they say 12 billion? I do think we'll hear soon about the fees coming down. They have reached 12 billion in outflows, and it would make sense to see them start lowering the fees in the near future. Now let's talk about Bitcoin on the chart. Bitcoin's still looking great, still following its longer term uptrend, still above the 200 and the 50 moving average. Keep an eye on this longer term uptrend. Make sure that if we do head down, we do bounce just like we did recently here the other day. And you know, the other day we did get a break over this descending resistance that we were facing for quite a while here. Now we're just kind of riding it down this descending channel. So one thing I'm watching for is a break out of this resistance line here. One thing that would be nice to see for Bitcoin is breaking these recent highs, just to indicate that we're seeing higher highs and higher lows. If we can get back towards 69,000, we would be breaking higher highs. I think Bitcoin's still a dip buy opportunity. Of course, it would have been better to buy the last couple of days, but we're still 10% down from our top. We're still ahead of the halving. 2024 will be a very good year for Bitcoin. and I do think now is the time to buy. Next up, I want to talk about Iris Energy. We saw a huge pop yesterday, one of the best performing Bitcoin miners yesterday, and we saw this beautiful breakout of this descending resistance that Iris Energy was basically facing for the last couple months. Next, what I want to see for Iris Energy is a break of this resistance line. It has flipped. There are times that the market definitely reacts to it. You could see that it sort of becomes a breaking out point, a support point. When we break it to the downside, we do see an accelerated sell-off. When we break it to the upside, we do see an accelerated pump. So I do think it'll be an important level to watch. It's right around this 640 area. But you know, last time we saw a reversal like this, we saw this back here in 2024, in the beginning of 2024. We saw this rough downtrend after a nice pop. And once we saw a reversal, once we saw a breakout of this resistance, we did see a huge rally. Could we be at that point here? I think it's possible. Being that the halving is still ahead of us, being that the market still may force these Bitcoin miners down because of rewards being cut, I'm a bit hesitant here, but I do think we are approaching another rally. CleanSpark's looking pretty good as well. We saw a breakout of this descending resistance too. Looks like we came down and bounced off of it or tested it. And similar story with CleanSpark. I want to see a break of this recent high, higher highs and higher lows. I do think if we can head above 2150, we'll be breaking this previous high and things could continue moving up. CleanSpark is still just following its beautiful uptrend. Keep an eye on this general trend. We are just continuing upwards. I think at this point, the likelihood of filling this gap is still very unlikely. This was a breakaway gap on huge volume. We're talking about the type of volume we haven't seen since the last rally back in 2020. So these types of gaps, also known as breakaway gaps, don't as often get filled as a regular common gap. And for that reason, I've been saying, you know, as we approach this gap, you have to be a buyer. You don't wait until the gap, you buy into the gap. And hopefully you guys were buying while we were down roughly 35-36% on CleanSpark. I think this stock's showing a lot more strength compared to some of the other Bitcoin miners just because of their recent good earnings. They saw a profitable quarter. That's a huge thing for these Bitcoin miners. Even here with this move up, I do think CleanSpark's an add. However, I would be cautious. And you definitely want to give CleanSpark a decent time horizon if you're buying at these levels. But yes, I do think CleanSpark will be much higher by the end of this year. Next up, BTBT, another one that we saw a breakout of this resistance. We saw a nice rally, a nice reaction from the market on this breakout. And now we're facing our 50 MA. One thing with BTBT is we did see a death cross here. This pulling back did bring these moving averages to cross. So what I want to see is a break above the 50 and a break above the 200. Get back over $3 for BTBT and start seeing these moving averages cross back, give us a golden cross and continue rallying. BTBT held its very strong support here at this $2 area. And so far things are looking good for BTBT. I still think it's a great add here. I do think it's still heavily discounted compared to some of the other miners. They have huge revenue growth coming from their AI side of things. They of course have their staking from Ethereum that they basically don't have to do anything. All they do is hold Ethereum and they get money for that. And of course their Bitcoin mining efforts, they are basically doubling their hash rate with the goal of that being by the end of this year. But BTBT is another one I'm very bullish on. They are still heavily discounted from their previous peak. They're still over 50% off from their recent highs. And I do think BTBT is one of the best adds among the Bitcoin miners. Next up, I want to talk about Terra Wolf. A lot of people like this one. We saw a huge breakout. I believe this was the best mover yesterday, something like a 30-something% day, which is just insane. But we saw a beautiful breakout of this descending kind of resistance area. I'm a little worried because typically when you see a setup like this, we are going to see a breakdown. This is kind of an ascending wedge type pattern, I would say. But keep an eye on it. If we do break it to the upside, look for a 250 breakout. Otherwise, we might test this support level, pull back, and test our resistance as a support down in the $2 area. So keep an eye on Wolf. It's definitely going to be pretty volatile. With a huge move like that, we are going to see the market kind of push and pull it a little bit as the market decides where they want to take a Terra Wolf. How do you guys feel about these recent ETF outflows with Bitcoin? Are you taking advantage of this short-term pain? And also, how are you feeling about the miners as we approach the halving? We have roughly 20 days left, 20-something days left. And I think any weakness up to the halving is a great opportunity to load up on these Bitcoin miners. The clock is ticking, time is running out. I do personally expect the Bitcoin miners to rally shortly after the halving, so I think now is the time to be loading up on them. Now is still the time to be buying. But thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.